All right, get ready, because today we're diving deep into a pretty thought-provoking book.
Oh, yeah.
It's called The Gene Keys
Okay.
by Richard Rudd. And, it's making some bold claims, suggesting that our DNA, it's not just about our physical traits, but it
Yeah.
holds this blueprint for our consciousness
Right.
and our potential for personal transformation.
Interesting.
And it even hints at this connection to ancient wisdom,
Yeah.
like the I Ching.
I like that. Yeah.
Pretty wild, right?
Yeah. What I find fascinating is how Rudd takes this complex idea of genetics
Yeah.
and weaves in these elements of spirituality and self-discovery. He's basically saying we can use our genetic code as this roadmap for growth.
So, okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
The book revolves around these things called gene keys.
Okay.
There are 64 of them.
Yeah.
And each one represents a different aspect of human consciousness.
Got it.
Now, I've looked at human design a little bit and it feels kind of similar.
Yeah.
This idea that our birth date holds a unique energetic signature.
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on there.
Really?
Yeah, human design, the gene keys system draws on these ancient systems like the I Ching,
Yeah.
using your birth information to create kind of a personalized map of your potential.
All right.
But the gene keys go a step further
Okay.
and suggest that each of these keys exists on a spectrum of consciousness,
Okay.
moving from a shadow state to a gift state, and then ultimately to this thing called a siddhi.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those states.
Sure.
What exactly is this shadow?
So the shadow, it's not so much like a dark side,
Okay.
more like underdeveloped potential.
Okay.
Each gene key has this shadow that represents the fears and insecurities, those negative patterns
Yeah.
that can hold us back.
Got it.
Think of it like the default setting of that particular aspect of your consciousness.
Okay.
For example,
Yeah.
gene key 55,
Right.
which is about freedom,
Right.
has the shadow of victimization. So someone who's really deep in this shadow might struggle with feeling powerless or blaming others for their situation.
Okay, got it. So if we're kind of stuck in the shadow, how do we move towards that gift state?
So that's where the real journey begins. The gift is the higher expression of the gene key.
Okay.
It's what comes out when we become aware of those shadow patterns.
Right.
We consciously choose to transform them.
Okay.
So in the case of gene key 55,
Yeah.
moving from that victimization shadow to the gift of freedom
Uh-huh.
would involve you recognizing those victimhood patterns and taking responsibility for your choices in your life.
I see. So we're basically talking about using self-awareness to kind of upgrade our default settings.
Exactly.
But there's that third level, right?
Right.
The CD.
Yes.
What even is that?
So the CD is the ultimate expression of each gene key.
Okay.
It's where that part of your consciousness is fully awakened and embodied.
Okay.
It's a state of pure potential where limitations just kind of fall away. And you experience this profound liberation.
Liberation. That
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got these 64 gene keys.
Yep.
Each one has a shadow, a gift, and a CD.
That's right.
But how do we figure out which ones are the most relevant for us? That's where the hologenetic profile comes in, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
This profile, it's based on your birth date, time, and location, and reveals your unique configuration of gene keys.
Okay.
It's divided into 3 main sequences:
Okay.
the activation sequence, the Venus sequence, and the Pearl sequence.
Got it.
Each sequence focuses on a specific area of your life
Okay.
and offers a roadmap for navigating your challenges and unlocking your potential.
Okay, so let's dive into these sequences. I'm picturing this choose your own adventure for personal growth.
I like that.
What's the first stop on our journey?
So first up, we have the activation sequence.
Okay.
This one is all about your core stability, your life's work, and the challenges you'll face in going after your purpose. It highlights the key gene keys that are going to be most prominent on your journey.
Got it.
Think of it like the foundation you build your life on.
So if someone's having trouble finding their purpose,
Yeah,
this sequence could give them some valuable clues.
absolutely.
What about people who feel like they're on the right path, but they keep hitting roadblocks?
Yeah, the activation sequence can help you identify those roadblocks as patterns from specific gene key shadows
Okay.
and offer insights into how to overcome them by stepping into those corresponding gifts.
So it's about understanding the challenges you're meant to work through.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. All right, so we've laid the groundwork with the activation sequence,
Right.
understanding our challenges and potential.
Yeah.
What's the next area we look at in this hologenetic profile?
Next is the Venus sequence.
Venus sequence.
And you can probably guess
Yeah.
this is all about relationships.
Okay, makes sense.
But it goes beyond romantic relationships.
So,
It includes all our connections, It reveals how our gene keys influence our interactions and emotional patterns.
So this sequence would be especially relevant for someone who, say, keeps finding themselves in like unhealthy relationships or
Yeah,
struggles with communication.
absolutely.
What kind of insights could they get from this?
Okay, let's say you constantly attract partners who are emotionally unavailable.
Okay.
Your Venus sequence might show that a dominant gene key for you in this area is gene key 37,
Okay.
which in its shadow can show up as a tendency to put others' needs before your own.
So like being a people pleaser,
Exactly.
always trying to fix or rescue others.
That's it.
And that pattern might be coming from a deep fear of rejection,
Right.
which is part of that shadow expression.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the Venus sequence would encourage you to explore the gift of this gene key, which is tenderness.
Interesting.
And this doesn't mean you stop caring, but you learn to balance caring for others with healthy self-respect and boundaries.
Okay, so even if a gene key shows up in its shadow form, it doesn't automatically mean it's a bad thing.
No.
It's about seeing the pattern
Yeah.
and choosing to express the higher potential of that gene key.
Exactly. It's about understanding that the shadow is just an invitation to grow and evolve.
This is making me think about my own relationship patterns. I'm definitely going to be looking deeper into my Venus sequence.
I think that'd be a good idea.
We've got one more sequence to explore, though, right? The Pearl sequence.
Yes, the Pearl sequence.
Oh,
That
wow.
takes us into the area of our higher calling
Okay.
and how we express it in the world.
All right.
It's about aligning your inner gifts and passions with your vocation
Okay.
and finding true fulfillment in your work.
Now, this is where I get really excited.
Yeah,
I'm all about finding work that feels aligned with my purpose.
of course.
What kind of insights can this sequence offer?
So the Pearl sequence can help you identify your unique gifts and talents.
Okay.
And it reveals how they can be expressed in a way that brings you joy
Yeah.
and also contributes to the world. It can help you understand the challenges you might face in going after your calling and give you guidance on how to overcome them.
So let's say someone feels stuck in a dead-end job, one that drains their energy.
Yeah.
Could this sequence help them find a path that feels more fulfilling?
Definitely.
Maybe even uncover hidden talents they didn't know they had.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we each have these unique gifts to offer the world.
Yeah.
The Pearl sequence helps you uncover those gifts and empowers you to share them in a way that feels authentic and purposeful.
Wow, this hologenetic profile sounds like an incredible tool for self-discovery.
It really is.
We've covered the activation, Venus, and Pearl sequences,
Right.
each offering a different perspective on our potential and challenges.
Yeah.
But I know we've only scratched the surface of what the Gene Keys has to offer.
It's a deep book.
So everyone listening, take a moment to let all this sink in, and we'll be right back to explore how to actually apply this wisdom in our lives. Welcome back, everyone. So we've explored these three really intriguing sequences.
Yeah.
Activation, Venus, and Pearl. Each one giving us this unique perspective on our potential and, our challenges too.
Yeah, for sure.
But how do we actually go beyond just knowing this stuff
Right.
to applying it in our everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Gene Keys emphasizes that real change. It doesn't just come from intellectual understanding, but from this process of contemplation.
Contemplation.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit like meditation.
It is similar.
I'll admit, I'm not always the best at meditation.
It takes practice.
My mind wanders.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
But contemplation here, it can take different forms.
Okay.
It's really about taking the time to deeply reflect on the information in your hologenetic profile. For example, you could pick a specific gene key that speaks to you.
Okay.
And spend some time meditating on its shadow, gift, and city.
Okay, so let's say I'm drawn to Gene Key 22, the one about grace and beauty,
Right.
if I understand right.
Yeah.
It's shadow superficiality.
Yeah, that's right.
Would meditating on this key involve looking at where that tendency towards superficiality pops up in my life?
That's a perfect example.
Really?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
could be anything from focusing too much on outward appearances
Yeah.
to maybe avoiding those deeper emotional connections.
Uh-huh.
Then you can ask yourself,
Yeah.
how do I shift from this shadow into the gift of grace? What would it feel like to embody that city of beauty,
Yeah.
that radiant inner harmony?
I see.
Yeah,
But what if meditation just isn't my thing?
sure.
Are there other ways to engage in this contemplation process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Journaling can be really powerful.
Okay, yeah.
After you read about a specific gene key,
Yeah,
just jot down your thoughts, feelings, any insights that come up.
got it.
You could ask yourself,
Yeah,
where do I see this shadow playing out in my life?
okay.
What happens if I stay stuck in this pattern?
Yeah.
What steps can I take to embrace the gift?
So it's about taking this intellectual knowledge and making it personal.
Yeah.
It's not just passively reading. We're actively engaging with these ideas and applying them to our own experiences.
It's about making it real, making it relevant to your own life.
This reminds me of what you mentioned before about synarchy.
Oh, yeah.
This idea that when we change ourselves, it can create a collective shift in consciousness.
Right.
It feels like we're moving past just self-improvement and into something much bigger.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
The gene keys isn't just about personal growth. It's about contributing to a more conscious and interconnected world.
Okay.
Rudd argues that as more people wake up to their potential
Yeah.
and embrace their highest expression, we all raise the vibration of the planet together.
That's a beautiful idea.
It is.
But honestly, it's a little hard to grasp.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of how this might actually look in the real world?
Yeah, the book shares some really inspiring stories.
Oh.
Okay, so for example,
Yeah.
there's this woman who struggled with codependency in her relationships.
Right.
Through working with her Venus sequence, she realized her need to control came from the shadow of expectation.
So instead of accepting her partners as they were,
Right.
she was trying to make them into what she thought they should be.
Exactly.
And that was causing problems in her relationship.
A lot of friction, yeah.
Yeah.
But by choosing to embrace the gift of detachment, she was able to let go of that need to control and have more loving and authentic connections.
So by changing her own perspective,
Right.
she didn't just transform her own experience,
Exactly.
but also positively impacted the people around her.
That ripple effect is powerful.
It really is.
And there are examples of communities using gene key principles to resolve conflicts and create more harmony.
Yeah.
There's this one story about a group of neighbors who were in this big dispute. By using the wisdom of their individual gene keys and focusing on their collective gifts, they found common ground and turned the conflict into a collaborative effort.
Wow, these stories are amazing.
They're really inspiring.
It's so cool to see how this concept can lead to real change.
It's powerful stuff.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to be into the whole gene keys thing.
Right.
How do we bridge the gap between this knowledge and everyday life?
That's a great question.
How do we make it accessible to more people?
I think the key is to focus on practical application.
Okay.
It's not about convincing everyone to believe in a certain system,
Right.
but about sharing tools and insights that can empower them to live better lives.
So meet people where they are
Yeah.
and offer guidance that resonates with them.
Exactly.
Speaking of practical application,
Yeah.
we've talked about the theory and the potential, but I know our listeners are probably wanting to know what they can actually do. What advice can we give for integrating the gene keys into daily life?
That's what we'll explore when we come back.
Okay.
We'll dive into specific practices and strategies to help you bring the wisdom of the gene keys into your everyday reality.
All right, we're back, ready to get practical.
Let's do it.
We've explored this whole world of the gene keys,
Yeah.
these 64 codes within us,
Right.
offering this roadmap to transformation.
Powerful stuff.
We've looked at our hologenetic profile,
Uh-huh.
which is like our personalized map,
Yeah.
highlighting our strengths and challenges
That's right.
and potential in different areas.
It's a great tool.
And we even touched on this idea of synarchy,
Right.
where individual growth ripples out to create a more conscious collective.
That's all connected.
But now, let's talk about what we can actually do.
Yeah, the practical side.
What can we do with this information?
That's when the real magic happens. When we go from theory to practice.
Okay.
Remember the gene keys? It's a journey,
Right.
not a destination. It's about integrating this wisdom into your everyday life, step by step.
Baby steps.
Exactly.
I can do that.
Where do we start?
Yeah. Where do we begin?
One of the most important practices is cultivating self-awareness.
Okay.
The gene keys encourages us to pay attention to our thoughts and feelings and behaviors,
Okay.
especially when we notice those shadow patterns popping up.
You know, it's funny you say that. Just this morning, I was so frustrated
Oh, yeah.
because I was late for a meeting.
Happens to the best of us.
And I realized I was blaming everybody else.
Oh, no.
Traffic, the slow barista,
Oh.
even my partner for not waking me up earlier.
Classic blame game.
Right.
Sounds like a potential shadow showing up there.
Yeah.
Which gene key have you been thinking about lately?
Well, gene key 44 has been on my mind.
Okay, yeah.
The one about integrity and right action,
Right.
and the shadow is compromise. I've been noticing this tendency to compromise my own values and needs to please others, which just makes me resentful.
That's a really powerful connection you've made.
Really?
Recognizing that pattern is a huge first step.
Yeah.
Now, how can you bring in that gift of integrity to this situation? Maybe set clearer boundaries, communicate your needs more directly, or even just own your part in the situation.
Well, that's really helpful.
I'm glad.
I struggle with boundaries a lot.
Yeah.
Especially at work.
It's common.
I'm seeing now how understanding my gene keys can help me approach these things more consciously.
It's a great framework.
It really is.
And it's not just about reacting to situations. It's about actively cultivating the gifts.
So true.
What kind of practices do you connect with? We talked about meditation and journaling. Yeah. Are there other things you enjoy, like yoga or being in nature?
I find that creative expression helps me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like painting or writing poetry.
It's interesting.
Helps me process my emotions and connect with my intuition.
That's fantastic. There's no one right way to do this.
True.
The important thing is to find what works for you and create a daily practice that supports your journey with the gene keys.
Okay, I'm feeling really inspired.
That's great to hear.
So we've got self-awareness, daily practices.
Yeah.
What else can we do to bring this wisdom to life? What about our relationships?
Relationships, yeah.
We talked about this earlier with the Venus sequence.
Right.
But are there any tips for using this knowledge to build better connections?
Remember that story about the woman who transformed her codependency by embracing detachment? That's a great example of how we can use the gene keys to improve our relationships.
Okay.
It starts with seeing how our shadows are playing out in our interactions.
So let's say I have a friend who always wants my advice and validation.
Okay.
And it's starting to feel draining.
Yeah.
Could that be connected to a gene key shadow?
It's definitely worth considering. Maybe your friend's dominant shadow in the Venus sequence is neediness, while yours might be over-responsibility.
Interesting.
Realizing those patterns can help you set better boundaries and communicate more clearly.
So instead of feeling like I have to fix her problems, I can support her, but also empower her to find her own solutions.
Exactly.
And instead of ignoring my own needs, I can express them and create a more balanced relationship.
That's the goal.
It is.
It's about understanding that healthy relationships involve both giving and receiving.
Right.
And the gene keys can help us do this dance with more awareness.
This has been so eye-opening.
I'm glad to hear that.
I feel like my perspective is already shifting.
That's great.
It's like the gene keys are giving me a new language to understand myself and the world.
It's a powerful system.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to start this journey?
Just remember, transformation takes time.
Okay.
Be gentle with yourself. Yeah. Celebrate your progress and embrace the beauty of the journey.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
If you're inspired to unlock your own potential
Yes.
and contribute to a better world,
That's what it's all about.
we highly recommend The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd.
Great book.
And remember, this isn't just about reading.
Right.
It's about embarking on this lifelong journey of self-discovery
It is.
and transformation.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.